Welcome to Random Researches, Track Views, Guidings and General Ramblings, and this is the quintessential track guide of the Sochi Autodrom. This track was the host of the Russian Grand Prix from 2014 to 2021. This very track wraps its way around multiple venues of the 2014 Winter Olympics. Before delving into this track guide, I think a little history lesson might be useful to show off why we got a Russian Grand Prix in the first place. And just for a moment you thought you were dumb at college, huh? That will make this interesting. It was the ancient times of 2011. Loreen wasn't a Eurovision winner yet, Lewis Hamilton was still at McLaren, and this guy was still the most hated man in Formula 1 history. In October 2011, the Russian government said to the FIA, "Buckle up, because it's our time to shine." A budget of $195.4 million was set aside for their latest addition to the F1 calendar, the Sochi Autodrom. Herman Tilke was brought in to design the track, and what he came up with was this drawing that looks like a wheelbarrow with a hole inside of it. Driving a lap around this track is like negotiating an argument with a politician that you can't win, because it's filled with lots of useless excuses to fulfill the biased medias. Now before we start the lap, it's time for some audience participation. What is the most important aspect of a Grand Prix circuit? Fast flowing turns, super wide for overtaking, and a good outside spectacle. As it turns out, it is none of those things. It has uninspired corners, it's narrower parts, and the scenery is about as bland as Top Gear's return with Chris Evans. And it's on that note we'll actually start the lap. Going through the gears, we are confronted with the flat-out turn 1. Whilst going 3 or 4 wide down the long stretch, it opens up a second opportunity for an overtake, and then we're confronted with this crime against humanity. A tight and finicky 90-degree right-hander that loves it when you miss your braking point and run wide on exit. Give it some extra rage points for the extremely tight bollard you have to go through in order to not receive a corner cutting penalty. You wanna know the best part? This corner loves to confuse the commentators. Here, I'll prove it.
And locking up brakes, Nico Rosberg goes into the lead at turn 1.
It's turn 2, Crofty. Anyway, next up is turn 3. A flat out corner that follows the outer ring of the Stanislavy and is actually quite fun and challenging. It's pretty cool. But the fun doesn't stop there. Immediately you get on the brakes again for a 90-degree right, up through the gears and down this short straight passing the Shea Bar Arena, and leave it too late to get on the brakes again for a 90-degree right-hander. Brake your car and possibly your foot, blast down this straight and right-hand kink before you get on the brakes again for a 90-degree right-hander. Miss the apex and punch the accelerator like it's made of jab rocks and... hang on. Wait a minute. Oh, for sake. Hello, is this pest control? Yeah, I've got a suspected case of 90-degree right-handers in my fridge. Hello? Incredibly, the track now throws a double left-hand turn to make sure it passes as a racing circuit and not a parking lot. But what awaits me at the end of this short stretch? You're not going to believe it. A 90-degree right-hander. Yeah, it's a 90-degree turn, much like the rest of this circuit. Keep it to the left-hand side, brake just before the 100 meters, ease the car to the apex and then open up. Exit the corner and blast down this long back straight, which isn't a straight at all. Got you there. But you wish it could just keep going because you know what's coming next.
No, Captain! This isn't funny anymore!
Earlier on, you experienced the flat-out blast of a right-hand sweeper leading right into a 90-degree right. Now we experience a left-hand sweeper into a blind 90-degree right. Why? The next sequence of corners are about as redundant as the ones I've mentioned before, except this 90-degree corner is a left-hander. How original. And then you negotiate the last sector as if you were navigating the outskirts of a one-way car park. Yeah, like the one that F1 used to race in the early 80s. This Russian Grand Prix circuit is not Russian at all, it's a dawdle. The majority of the turns are as slow as the wait for the next train that has been delayed for half an hour. And then it gets cancelled at the last minute because it's the Transpennine Express that never arrives on time. And that is my view of the Sochi Autodrom. Finally, this track has been roasted to a crisp. Oh, and by the way, if you despise what I said and think this track is the absolute GOAT, feel free to absolutely decimate me in the comments below.